Hi there, I'm Kelly Longtin from Kelly Longtin Law, and today I want to discuss with you fears people have when talking about money and inheritances. Studies have shown that the largest contributing factors to generational loss of wealth is a lack of communication and trust among family members and the failure to prepare their heirs or the beneficiaries. Often fear is what underlies this lack of communication and trust that inevitably leads to unprepared heirs. Now, I'm going to discuss with you some of the fears that prevent people from communicating with their loved ones about their wealth. Now, when we talk about inheriting, we use the term heirs. An heir is someone who is entitled to receive a decedent's property under a state's default laws when the decedent dies without a will. Now, the list of people who inherit based on the state's default plan varies depending on the state. Now, most state laws recognize spouses, children, and grandchildren as heirs. Now, some of the common fears that people have is the fear of creating an entitlement mentality, or a fear that their heirs will just squander their inheritance once they receive it, or that somebody from the outside will influence their heirs in a negative way. There's also a fear of treating their heirs unequally, and then that leading to sibling rivalry or disputes between the heirs. And there's a fear that the disclosure now might limit the choices and the changes in the future. So if you tell someone they're a beneficiary now, and then you decide to change your mind. And there's also the fear of running out of money. So let's just take a closer look at these fears and how it plays into this topic when I talk to you about the fear of money. So let's talk about the fear of creating entitlement mentality in heirs. I think a lot of us have this fear. And we've all heard horror stories about trust fund kids who had no motivation to do anything other than relax and enjoy life because they knew that a large inheritance would be available for spending once they reached a certain age. So they weren't highly motivated. And knowing that a large inheritance was coming, they did the bare minimum to make sure that they would receive it, but in the process, ignored opportunities to get the most out of their education or learn new skills because in the child's mind, the future was already mapped out for them. Luckily, by working with an experienced estate planning attorney, you can craft an estate plan that avoids this outcome. Your estate plan could include incentives for your beneficiaries, such as qualifying to receive money from the trust only if they graduate from an accredited college or a university with a certain minimum grade point average. You could also include restrictions on what the money could be used for, such as tuition or starting a business or the purchase of a home, eliminating the idea that money is available for luxury or just frivolous items. On the other hand, if you're truly concerned about how your beneficiaries will use the money, you can leave the decision of how much money they receive and when they receive it to the discretion of a trustee who understands your concerns about discouraging entitlement mentality and encouraging beneficiaries to develop a strong work ethic and become productive, contributing members of society. Let's talk about the fear that your heirs will squander their inheritance. Now, you've worked hard to create and maintain your wealth, and you've spent where you needed to, and you've saved in other areas. It's a reasonable fear that when you pass along your wealth, that your level of frugality just probably is not going to go along with it. And as I mentioned just a moment ago, to combat this fear, you can include provisions in your estate plan that list exactly what the money you're leaving to your loved one can be used for. So if your intent is to provide your loved one with an education or seed money for their first business, you can restrict the use of the money for those purposes. As I also mentioned, you can select a successor trustee who will make trust distributions in accordance with your long-term objectives for your money and for your loved ones. So this means that if your loved one wants that wild weekend in Vegas, they're just going to have to find the money for that trip someplace else. There's also the fear that outside influences will overtake their heirs. Unfortunately, there are some not so nice people in the world, and these people tend to enter your life and the lives of your loved ones when there's money at stake. And while your loved one may be incredibly level-headed and frugal, it can sometimes be hard to say no to a partner or a friend who wants to go on expensive trips or to buy nice clothes. In addition, with about half of all marriages ending in divorce, potential gold diggers may find your loved one even more attractive if there's the possibility of a large divorce settlement. Through proper drafting, an experienced estate planning attorney can not only restrict how your loved one accesses the money you leave them, but also protect it from creditors and predators. A lot of parents have the fear of treating heirs unequally and fostering some sibling rivalry. And depending on your parenting philosophy, you'll have to decide whether you want to treat your children or your grandchildren equally or fairly in your estate plan. Now, treating your loved ones equally means that they'll receive the same amount of inheritance. Treating them fairly means that your loved ones receive money and property according to their individual needs and situations. Now, the answer to the equally or fairly question will depend on your unique circumstances and intentions, and honestly may take a little soul searching for you or you and your spouse. Now, some people believe it's crucial that everyone in the same generation, whether it's children or grandchildren, be treated the exact same way, which is equally, right, to prevent any conflicts. Where others believe that because everyone is different, each person in a generation should be provided for in a way that gives them all the same access to opportunities and advantages in life. So that would be treating them fairly. One child may make more money than a sibling, or one grandchild may have special needs, while the other grandchildren do not. Now, these differences might require different amounts and types of inheritances to be given to them. And a lot of people have a fear that disclosing their wishes now might limit choices and any changes that they may want to make in the future. So whom you tell about your plan does not impact your ability to change your mind. However, the type of plan that you create may limit your ability to make future changes. A revocable living trust or a last will and testament can be changed at any time up until you are incapacitated or unable to make decisions for yourself, or when you pass away. On the other hand, there are irrevocable trusts that, while offering increased asset protection and potential tax benefits, may be more complicated or problematic to alter if you change your mind in the future. Although having an initial conversation with your family about your financial wishes can be nerve-wracking enough, and meeting with them a second time to let them know that you have changed your mind could be even more so. The difficulty does not diminish the importance or the benefits of being open and honest with your family. People also have a fear of running out of money. Now, for many people, earning or acquiring money offers a sense of security. Now, without money, some people may feel vulnerable. Also, unless you plan to work until the day that you die, you may also worry that the money you have acquired during your lifetime will run out before your death, leaving you to rely on government assistance or family members. While this scenario is always a possibility, working with an experienced financial advisor can help you get ahead of this fear by taking a look at your current income, savings, and expenses to create a budget and investment strategy that meets as many of your future needs and wants as possible. Now let's talk about overcoming your fears. Creating a comprehensive financial and estate plan with the help of experienced advisors, in addition to having an honest and open conversation with your loved ones about it, are two of the first steps to overcoming the fears that arise about your money and inheritance. To help you prepare to create your plan and discuss it with your family, consider how you would answer the following questions. What does money mean to you? Are you comfortable telling your family about your plans for your wealth? What do you want to teach future generations about money? And how can you help future generations develop financial competency? Are you concerned that you may run out of money? Or do you worry about creating an entitlement mentality among your children or grandchildren? And if you leave a large sum of money, do you think future generations will squander it? Or do you think that outside influences will take advantage of your children and grandchildren if you leave them a large sum of money? Or do you want to treat your children and grandchildren equally or fairly? Now, the answers to these questions will help you express your fears and attitudes and goals about your wealth and how you want to ultimately pass it down or not to your children and grandchildren and beyond. Also, discussing your philosophy about money with your loved ones will allow them to know what to expect after you're gone instead of just being left in the dark. So if we can help you with any of this, please call us to schedule an appointment so we can discuss your options for protecting your wealth for generations to come. I want to thank you for watching. I'm Kelly Longtin from Kelly Longtin Law, where we provide effective estate planning for everyday families.